theme: God's sovereignty in the middle of human striving, jealousy, manipulation, and imperfect faith. The dysfunction continues. The idea: God accomplishes his promises not through human perfection, but in spite of human dysfunction, which is, I think, exactly the way he wants it all the time. Structure of the chapter: Rachel's desperation and competition, verses 1 through 8. When Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, she envied her sister. She said to Jacob, "Give me children, or I shall die." Not dramatic at all. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of God, who has withheld you from the fruit of your womb, who has held from you the fruit of your womb?" Then she said, "Here's my servant Bilhah, go into her, so she can give birth on my behalf." Sounds really familiar. "That even I may have children through her." So she gave him her servant Bilhah as his wife, and Jacob went in to her, and Bilhah conceived, bore Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, "God has judged me, and has also heard my voice, and given me a son." Therefore she called his name Dan. Rachel's servant Bilhah conceived again, and bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, "With mighty wrestling I have wrestled with my sister, and have prevailed." So she called his name Naphtali. Genesis 31 through 2. Rachel envies Leah, demands children from Jacob. Jacob responds with frustration. Infertility equals identity crisis in ancient culture, because that was a sign that obviously God disfavors you because you are not able to bear children. Rachel is not just sad, she feels worthless. Like, I'm going to die. I just need to die. What's the point of me being here if I don't have kids? James 3:16 says, "Envy leads to disorder." 3 through 8 we already read, because I did this wrong. Rachel gives servant Bilhah to Jacob. Cultural surrogate practices. Still not blessed from God, right? Just because it's happening. Dan means God has judged. And Naphtali means my struggle. Rachel spiritualizes competition. God has judged me while still acting in control, right? She's going to just take it for herself, right? God not into me, so I'm going to do things myself. We often attach God's name to our own agendas. I just had a big situation like that with somebody, when people start throwing around like, well, God told me, or God's will for this situation, or, it's like, okay, well, God told me something different, so is he lying to one of us, 9 through 13, Zilpah, let's go. When Leah saw that she had ceased bearing children, she took her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Then Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a son. And Leah said, good fortune has come. So she called his name Gad. Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a second son, and Leah said, "Happy am I, for women have called me happy." So she called his name Asher. Leah, seeing she stopped bearing, copies Rachel. More sons: Gad, fortune; Asher, happy. It's just turning into like a really dysfunctional family dynamic. I mean, Jacob's having fun, but this becomes a baby war. Comparison will always escalate if not confronted. Yeah, because I mean, they both desire to be loved. They both, this is their husband, so I want to be the favorite. I want to be favored. And wait, which one's the not pretty one? Leah.
No, Rachel.
I was getting backwards. Rachel.
No, wait. Yeah, he loves Rachel. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Leah knew from the start that Jacob's not even into me, but I was bearing him kids, and but we also, there's obviously years are passing by here.
Yeah.
And so like, I wish we heard any kind of insight. Did Jacob start being attached to Leah at all in any kind of way? I mean, like, was there anything? Yeah. And why does Rachel feel so worthless, even though she's not bearing children? Like what's like that seems like Jacob's failings too. Like, why aren't you showing your wife love, enough so she feels like there's a point even without kids? I don't know. I guess God leaves a lot there for us to interpret like that, just for us to, I don't know, either have conversations about, or kind of like what's not said explains a lot. And obviously Jacob still isn't, there's nothing going on if they prayed to the Lord, or there's no mention of God anywhere other than God's mad. Yeah. A New Testament connection for what we just read is 2 Corinthians 10:12. Comparing ourselves is unwise. Jacob just served 14 years for Rachel's hand. Well, Yeah, to basically 14 years for Rachel's hand, even though he got Leah as well. Leah was the one that's not as pretty as Rachel. Rachel's like perfect, but Rachel can't bear children, and so Leah is bearing a bunch of children, and so Rachel is jealous, and right, it's just this family dysfunction. And I was like bringing it up, especially when we're talking about this polygamy kind of relationships, and then what's going on right now is where Rachel and Leah are pimping out Jacob to their surrogate, to their servants to have kids, so it's just this huge dysfunctional nonsense. And so now they're basically both are having Jacob make babies with their servant girls, and it's like this baby war against them, that everyone's just this family's just growing out of spite, And so, comparing ourselves is unwise. Verses 14 through 16, the mandrakes. In the days of wheat harvest, Reuben went and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." But she said to her, "It is a small matter that you have taken away my husband." It's coming out. "Would you take away my son's mandrakes also?" Rachel said, "Then he may lie with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes." We're going to 16. When Jacob came from the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, "You must come into me, for I have hired you with my son's mandrakes." So he lay with her that night. Wow, it's just getting more and more dysfunctional. It's like now they're prostituting their husband. Reuben finds mandrakes, ancient fertility symbol. Rachel trades a night with Jacob for them. Insight: superstition, manipulation, treating relationships as transactions, right? Just like that, there's no love at all. It's just this life that we're all just trying to find some kind of identity and worth in. All too familiar. The human heart never changes, let's just put it that way. When we don't trust God, we start bargaining for control. Genesis 17 through 21, Leah's final son. And God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. Leah said, "God has given me my wages because I have given my servant to my husband." She called him Issachar. She actually thinks what she's been doing is good. That's scary. And Leah conceived again, and she bore Jacob a sixth son. And Leah said, "God has endowed me with a good endowment. Now my husband will honor me because I have bore him a sixth son." Or bore him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. Afterward, she bore a daughter and called her name Dinah. Now it's interesting because we don't get the names of the females born because it didn't matter back then. You were all about the sons. And so the fact that we get not only didn't just bore a daughter, but got her name too, which means she's going to be something, or something's going to happen. God gives Leah more children. Issachar means reward. Zebulun, which means honor, and Dinah, which means daughter. God listened to Leah. Even in all the dysfunction, God is still blessing the situation, obviously, because he has a plan. God's never going to allow himself to be an unspoken assumption. No, it's me that's doing this. And if I'm doing it, that means there's a point and purpose to it all. God is working even when motives are mixed. 22 through 24, Rachel finally conceives. Then God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son and said, "God has taken away my reproach." And she called his name Joseph, saying, "May the Lord add to me another son." As soon as Rachel had bore Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me away, that I may go to my own home and country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, that I may go, for you know the service that I have given you." But Laban said to him, "If I have found favor in your sight, I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you." Lies. Divination, what is that? But what does the Bible clearly say later on about that specific word, divination? No, it's the same. They lump it in the same as like sorcery and witchcraft and divination. So it's like an ungodly calling upon some kind of divine revelation. It's like not okay. So wait, that's like we're moving through this really fast. So I feel like we can slow down and talk about stuff. Why is it so bad to practice any kind of tarot card readings or astronomy or astrology? Go to a psychic. People use this as like harmless, like nothings, but God is very against it. Okay, but I'm not the one doing it. I'm just going to hear
I don't know
what's being
if-
said.
Yeah,
Is-
but
did-
Well, look at how well the enemy has orchestrated distracting everybody, including Christians, so much so that when you think about somebody who studies the stars, when you think about somebody who is just super into saving the world and being homeopathic as much as they can, and just everything's natural and let's be clean. Those people are 99% not Christian people. The universe is their God.
Right.
But they're living exactly the way Christians should be living. It's okay to study these things. It's okay. Again, yeah, God created things. And honestly, I think God has probably put very important things for us into the universe and into the world.
Medicine.
But we're just, that's evil, so we've got to stay away from it. That's whatever. And that's the main heart behind it. God's saying you don't need to go seek out comfort and peace from anything else.
Yeah.
And that's he's not saying because you're not supposed to know that, which is true, but in the same sense, because one, you're either getting scammed by somebody and you're just wasting your money, which is stupid, or you're getting real messages from real demons, and that's really bad.
yeah.
You are opening yourself, that you're saying, yeah, demons, come on, wreak havoc in my life.
But like in any,
And it's nothing instead of God,
Yeah.
because that's more intelligent.
Right.
Nothing, everything came from nothing. I think it was Stephen Hawkins, the famous atheist, that really set into motion this idea of like you either have to believe in science or you believe in God. There's no such they don't mix together, and it's like no. The more and more that they
forget that all of science started with Christians.
that science is only possible because of God.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be anything to observe if God didn't create.
Yeah.
Well, and like scientists would have so much fun, and geologists and all these people who do all this kind of research, if they weren't trying so hard to figure out stuff
Prove God
without God being there.
Right.
Christian scientists I'm sure they just have the funnest time. They're just in awe of God's creation. And Jacob has to leave, which is funny because like I didn't even remember that he was still there. Like, why didn't you take your woman and get out of there? You're already married. Let's go. Jacob asks to leave. Laban realizes he's being blessed because of Jacob. Even unbelievers can recognize God's favor. God blesses on your life. God's blessing on your life impacts people around you. Do you ever think about that?
Yeah.
Did we actually think about that? Like how we're children of God. So even the places you go to work might not be Christians. Anybody around there might not be Christians. But your blessings are spilling over into the world around you. Your light is being shown. And so like that's blessing people. And then some people, most people, especially not Christians, they don't recognize it. And they just trying to survive life. Wages negotiation 28 through 34. Name your wages, and I will give it. Jacob said to him, you yourself know how I have served you, and how your livestock has fared with me. For you had little before I came, and it has increased abundantly, and the Lord has blessed you wherever I turned. But now when shall I provide for you my own household? But now when shall I provide for my own household also? He said, what shall I give you? Jacob said, you shall not give me anything. If you will do this for me, I will again pasture your flock and keep it. Let me pass through all your flocks today, removing from it every speckled and spotted sheep, every black lamb, every spotted and speckled among the goats, and they shall be my wages. So my honesty will answer for me later when you come to look into my wages with you. Everyone that is not speckled or spotted among the goats and the black among the lambs, if found with me, shall be counted stolen. Laban said, good, let it be as you have said. What's going on there? Do we know? So Laban's trying to manipulate terms. Jacob agrees to take the weaker looking animals. I'll take the not spotless animals, right? The spotless ones are the ones that are valuable, are the ones that you sacrifice, are the ones that you, right? So Laban is deceptive, but Jacob is also becoming strategic. And I love how we just read, like, God has still just been blessing Jacob all this time, strictly because he's his child and he chose to, and because he wants to. Jacob has done nothing to earn any of this goodness. God's people don't need to manipulate, but they often still try. So then here we go, Laban and his craftiness. 35 to 36. But that day Laban removed the male goats that were striped, spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had white on it, and every lamb that was black, and put them in charge of his sons. And he set the distance of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob. And Jacob pastured the rest of Laban's flock. Then Jacob took fresh sticks of poplar and almond and plane trees and peeled white streaks in them, exposing the white of the sticks. And he set the sticks that he had peeled in front of the flock's troughs, that is, the watering places where the flocks came to drink. And since they bred, they came to drink. Okay. Laban secretly removes the animals Jacob was supposed to receive, right? So just being a backhanded. Laban cheats Jacob. Not everyone will pay fair, even when you do. Right? He's been faithful. He's been for 14 years. Laban's been blessed for that whole time. Just abundant growth, and he's still just a little jerk. The rods. All right, so Jacob uses striped rods. An ancient breeding belief. God prospers him anyway. The flocks bred in front of the sticks, and the flocks brought forth striped, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob separated the lambs and set the faces of the flocks toward the striped, and all the black of the flocks of Laban. He put his own droves apart and did not put them in Laban's flock. Wherever the stronger of the flock were breeding, Jacob would lay the sticks in the troughs before the eyes of the flock, and that they might breed among the sticks. But after the feebler of the flock, he would not lay them there. So the feebler would be Laban's and the stronger Jacob's. Okay, weird. So Jacob uses striped rods, ancient breeding belief. God prospers him anyways. So Jacob too is trying to deceive. This is not science, it's God's providence. So God's still working something.
Yeah.
God blesses not because of methods, but because of his promise. Like literally, God is so patient. Like he can accomplish everything he wants to accomplish without us. He chooses to use us. He chooses to be patient with us. You know, like the fact that he chooses to love us and we're secure in that. And he just chooses to love us because he chooses to love us. Like we need to like always remember that. And I don't mean that in a like self-deprecating way. Like, okay, we should just feel terrible about ourselves. And I'm not worth it, but God loves me anyway. Thanks, God. No, more of like, thank God, because, you know, the whole debate of, you know, can you lose your salvation or not? It's like, bro, if we could lose our salvation, we would lose it every day, all the time, over and over and over again. We didn't do anything to earn it. Don't do anything to deserve it. And sustained by God. He is doing a work in us, even through all of our mess ups, flaws, which even more so just points to the fact that God is using all the evils and darkness in the whole world for his purpose, because that's how mighty he is. And that's how good he is. He's able to turn straight evil into good. 43, let's see what's up. Thus the man increased greatly and had large flocks, female servants and male servants, and camels and donkeys. That's the same thing as saying, he prospered greatly. He bought Lamborghinis and homes and vacation homes, and right. I mean, that's the same thing. They prospered greatly.
That's crazy.
Jacob becomes exceedingly wealthy. God fulfills his covenant promise to Abraham through a messy situation, just messy over and over again. And we didn't bring it up, but this whole, I wonder if the tales of, they had to be told to the kids passed down, Abraham and Sarah, and their whole concubine situation, right? It's like, is it really the human heart's just that the same? Or they knew, like, okay, well, Sarah did this, our great-grandma, or great-grandma? Yeah. It's just perpetual sin. Everyone in this chapter is striving. Rachel for control, Leah for validation, Jacob manipulation, Laban greed. No one is at peace, but God is still working. God's sovereignty in chaos. Dysfunction everywhere. God still builds the 12, is in the midst of building the 12 tribes of Israel. God's plan is not fragile. Like even with the times that we see, I can't even think of an example right now, but like when sin, just straight up disobedience and sin, literally leads to the promises of God. You know, like when children are being born that God's going to use, that God will bless out of situations that are messy. Identity issues drive sin. This is what the world is in chaos right now for. Everyone's searching for an identity, right? They have no clue who they are. Leah wants love. Rachel wants worth. Jacob wants success. Behavior flows from identity. And Ephesians 1 says identity is given, not earned. Right? I love asking my groups, even though we have to stay secular, but I just like to make them think deep. Like, who are you? I'll just say that sometimes. Most of the time, it's like, what are you talking about? Well, not what you do for work, not what your hobbies are, not what you're passionate about, not what you do for fun. Who are you? The most core foundational point. And people give some cute answers, but, unless that is, I'm a child of God, unless your answer sounds something like that, then it's really just, you have no idea who you are. And no, we're not all by default children of God. That's why we have to be adopted into the family, because we're not. We are far off, broken relationships. And so, yeah, I'm a child of God. That's my foundation. That's who I am. Everything else stems from that point. God works through imperfect people. More than that, God works through a bunch of knuckleheads. No heroes here, yet God is faithful. Romans 5:8, God acts while we are still sinners. Just some interesting facts about what we just went through. Mandrakes were believed to enhance fertility, ancient superstition. I mean, it's like anything else on the shelf today. Go take this if you're having infertility problems, pop this pill 2 times a day. Surrogate motherhood, Bilal and Zilpah, was culturally normal. So they weren't doing anything weird, but they weren't doing anything good either. Majority rule doesn't determine truth. That's the point of that. The names of the children reflect emotional states, not theology. Right? They're not naming their kids off of what, promises of God or beautiful things that they want from their kids. It's just, this is what we're going through right now. This chapter sets up the 12 tribes of Israel from chaos, and it doesn't stop there. Only getting started with the chaos. Okay, here we go. So verse 37, Jacob takes fresh sticks, poplar, almond, and peels them back, blah, blah, blah. What's going on? Ancient belief that what animals see while breeding affects offspring. Jacob is using a folk method, not science. So again, he's caught up with the superstition of the age.
Okay.
Jacob is still trying to work the system instead of fully trusting God. He sets the stripped sticks where the flocks mate. He places them at watering troughs where breeding happens. This is intentional strategy. Jacob is being calculated. The flocks breed in front of the sticks, produce striped/spotted animals. So this is why it sounds weird, because you're like, what are you doing? Stupid superstition. This is not because of the sticks scientifically. Later scripture clarifies God is the one who causes increase. Genesis 31.
Okay.
It may look like human effort, but it's actually God's hand. I know, it's funny. So it's like times like that, it's like we can be comforted or confirmed in our confusion, and it's just, this is stupid. It's like, yeah, it was stupid. It's like, it's the matter of the heart. Like literally that's most of the things we do. There's obvious sin that you could look at somebody and be like, oh, that's wrong. Yeah. But then there's also stuff, he's doing all the right stuff, but
internal battle.
What's going on in here?
It's the internal battle.
And you know what's comforting? And it's so funny because there's always this tension and dynamic of, so with all that information, there's so much freedom in knowing, like, even when we screw up and just utterly fail, God is still using all of it.
Yeah.
You didn't disappoint God. You didn't surprise him.
It's frustrating sometimes, though, too.
I know. But honestly, I think God uses our own personal failings and sin to keep us humble, though, too. Because what starts to happen when we're doing real good? We're waking up early and we're praying and we're reading, and all of a sudden now we start walking up like this a little bit.
Yeah.
It's doing the opposite effect of what should be happening. So God keeps us humble. That's why I always say, be careful praying God humble me, because he will, and it always sucks. There's so much freedom in humility. Like, it's really hard to practice sometimes, but it's literally just the act of just kind of just letting go and saying, you know what, even if I'm taken advantage of in this situation, God, just protect me, honor me, and just trying to,
Yeah.
And dude, it feels so, just the weight is off. You're like, whatever, bro.
Yeah.
I'm good. I got God, So with that same kind of heart, that if we could just approach more in our life like that.
It's our ego that always gets in the way.
Pride.
Yeah.
You feel like you're wronged.
So I hold on to Spurgeon's quote, something along the lines I always butchered, but pay no mind of what people think about you. For you are far worse than what they think.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a good one.
props. That's true. Facts.
I love quotes like that. They're so humbling.
Bro, like literally nobody. So I grew up with a lot of verbal abuse. And so I grew up very sensitive to ever feeling like I was an idiot. If I ever felt like if there was a chance of me looking stupid, man, it would just cripple me with fear. And it really affected me trying to lead worship. And I just, for many years, that was my main goal. I just want to be a powerful leader up there and just, help people worship God well and all that. But like, I can't talk. Like I might say something stupid, or I might stutter, or I might, right? And so that's something God had been working on me for years. When I finally started just talking with more people and more genres of life. I don't know what with church people and addict people and CEO people, and just really realizing like, we're all pretty much idiots.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure stuff out. And we're all just clueless in our own ways. And sure, we know some stuff too, but most of the time we're just a bunch of knuckleheads. And so that started really giving me just like, I'm just going to be me because I know the stuff that I know well. And so I'm going to be confident in that stuff, And that was really freeing too. It's just like, let's just realize we're all in the same boat. All suffering, all idiots. If we got God, that's the only good we got.